Okay.
Sir, I have mailed IIT Madras
Okay.
about this problem,
Okay.
but still they not respond till now.
Oh, oh man, that's try mailing them again because it's already Friday. So I think Saturday and Sunday is a holiday, so they will respond only on Monday. So the thing that I can suggest is try to mail again in the morning of Monday, if possible, and write it down in the discussion forum in the wildlife ecology course. See if that instructor can say if they can help it or not, or the people responsible for
Okay,
this course can. Okay, yeah. Hi everyone.
okay,
Uh,
sir.
yeah.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Welcome. Yeah. Sorry for this interruption. Hi everyone. Thank you for joining for this session. I This will be the last session of this course that I'll be joining. And yeah, so what I wanted to ask you is, are there any topics that you want me to cover from the previous weeks? I will be happy to try to help you with those topics in the initial part. If you have any doubts or clarifications that you want me to help you with, yeah, that's the first thing that I would like to ask. If yes, please drop yours, those things in the chat box so that I can try to. I will try my best to help you understand those topics or clear those doubts. Or if you will feel free to unmute yourself and then ask those questions. And after that, I can go through some of the questions from the assignments, from week 1 to week 11, and try to, we'll try to discuss why is that an answer, and then try to go through all those concepts again, some of those concepts with respect to those questions and other concepts also. That's the thing that I have planned to take up for this last session, since there was nothing additional that was taught in the course apart from being revised. So I thought this will be a good point for us to revise it like this. So yeah, I will be happy to hear from you if you have any questions or doubts. So take a minute or so. If there is anything else that you want me to teach, I would be happy to in this session. I'd be happy to cover that. So yeah, take a minute or two, write it down if you have anything in the chat box so that I can help you with this. If you have anything, you can unmute yourself also.
ठीक है मैंने रीडिंग के लिए यूज करना है
Uh, I yeah. So it seems like no one has anything else to ask. Okay, in that case, let's go ahead. What I have thought of covering some of those previous assignment questions. Let's have a look at them. And in the meantime, if you have any doubts regarding any of those questions or previous if you encounter, if you remember some of those things, just let me know. I'll be happy to start at that point on the topic. So yeah, think this as a, yeah. So yeah, let's just go over ecology. The term ecology, as we all know, it's basically made of two words, oikos and logos, which means household study of, whatever thing that you are studying. Either it could be organisms, or it could be communities, and so on. And yeah, here ecology is basically where you study the interactions among organisms and their environment, right? And it's also can be defined as, where you study the interactions that determine the distribution and abundance of organisms. So you not only study the interactions, how the organisms and the environment interact, you also study them in terms of how where they are distributed and how they are distributed in terms of abundance. So yeah, uh, yeah, guys, what do you think the answer for this question will be? It's like when we think, yeah, we just defined ecology. Ecology is scientific study of dash that determines the distribution and abundance of organisms. This question should have come a little earlier. So I'll just go ahead with the answer here, but I would expect you to start answering from the next question. D. Hi Ravi. Yeah, you raise your hand. You can unmute and answer also.
Sir, answer is
Yeah,
B. Correct answer B.
interactions. Yes, right. So we here only we just studied here. We just said it involves the study of interactions. So you're right. So ecology is the study of interactions that determine the distribution and abundance of organisms. So yeah, it's not habitat. You also cover the habitat, but majorly you will be trying to understand the interactions. So going ahead, yeah, yeah. So which of these is not a step in natural selection, right? So we have discussed natural selection and what are the things that are responsible for natural selection. Which of these is not it? Yeah, Ravi. Yeah, you can go ahead and answer.
Underpop, sir, underpopulation.
Underpopulation. Okay, so you think it's underpopulation. Rajeshri, can you try to convince me why you think it's a variation, or you can try to type it in the chat box. So we have to first, what are the steps in natural selection that happen? It has to be, there has to be variation that generates. Uh, okay, I'll just try to discuss. I will be discussing the answer. I will be discussing the question. Okay, underpopulation. Two people said it's underpopulation. One said it's variation. So yeah, the right answer is underpopulation. So let's discuss what all each of these options are. Variation is basically there. If you talk it in terms of population, there has to be individuals that are different in terms of any other aspect. There could be, it could be just simply color that helps in camouflage, to the ability to sprint faster if it comes to an ungulate. So there is a variation in any of the trait that has to be happening, and that is the what the variation here refers to. While struggle for existence and survival of fittest come later on. So and underpopulation is about, there is very little population. So yeah, so this underpopulation is not a essentials. It's not a step in natural selection, because underpopulation means, the population size is very very small. uh, that sort of populations are not what mostly that undergo selection. So you need to have variation in the population followed by struggle for existence, and then wherein that variation helps, that set of traits helps those individuals survive. That is the survival of the fittest, and that whole process is called as natural selection. Okay, so yeah, that is what it is. So going ahead, yeah, for more diversity, the level of disturbance should be. So which sort of which yeah, lower level disturbance, intermediate, more, none of this. Okay, intermediate. So here diversity in terms of species richness or other forms of diversity also. So one said species richness, sorry, intermediate level of disturbance. So yes, yes, you guys are right. It's intermediate level of disturbance. That's where we tend to observe higher amounts of diversity. And this sort of, yeah, this is called intermediate disturbance hypothesis, which says where whether you have higher amount of disturbance, you will not be able to have a greater amount of species diversity if you are looking at species diversity, while if you have low amount of disturbance, then you'll also have reduced species, but when you have intermediate level of disturbance, you will have higher amount of species. So the reasons why it could happen is when you have high amount of disturbance, colonization is something that doesn't happen as fast as the disturbance removes most of the species. Like if a fire happens and it kills most of the species, most of the trees, and then few more trees sapling has to grow, and the frequency is so high, the disturbance frequency, it doesn't allow the saplings to grow much taller and then be resilient to the fire. So eventually you'll see over time you'll see just a few set of species that can that can survive. While if you have very low level of disturbance like fire happening like once in 20-30 years, so due to intense competition between the species that are staying there, you will see lower number of species. While intermediate levels, you know, have higher species because there is relatively less competition that comes. You have relatively higher amount of time for species to colonize, and then because the fire is also happening, the competition also goes down. So this is what this example, this graphic is trying to represent. So if you have fire once in 30 years, this is an arbitrary example here. So for instance, we have fire once in 30 years, fire once in 3 to 4 years, fire every year. Which part, you know, which of these areas you will see uh, higher diversity in species? Let's say you're looking at plant species. It's the same thing, right? It's the same thing where it's the same question is same, but we have introduced what is that element of disturbance. So here fire, when we have very less fire or very frequent fires, we have a relatively less amount of diversity. Where there is more amount of fire, sorry, intermediate level of fire will have higher diversity in species. So that is the intermediate disturbance hypothesis. So this really helps in understanding how different sort of disturbances affect species diversity at a place. So the different disturbances can be anything, not just only fire. It can be human related disturbances. It can be cyclone. It can be weather related disturbances or anything. Okay, hope this was clear, right? The intermediate disturbance hypothesis. So yeah, let's get to the next question. The diversity that exists within an ecosystem is, so what do you call the diversity that exists within an ecosystem? Let's say, for instance, you have an area. Yeah, please, Ravi, go ahead and answer.
Biodiversity.
Yes. Okay, anybody else have any other answers? Please feel free to answer. Okay, alpha. Another person suggested alpha. So yes, you guys are right. So the diversity that exists within an ecosystem, basically you're defining what is the range of it. So you are saying that area that you are looking at is an ecosystem. So whatever species that occur, or the number of species that occur in that area, is called alpha beta alpha diversity. Sorry, beta gamma diversities. What is beta diversity? Can anybody say what is beta diversity and gamma diversity? Or let's say we just spoke about alpha diversity, right? How is gamma diversity different from alpha diversity? Beta is different ecosystems. Okay. What about gamma? Different geographical areas. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Broadly speaking, what Aditya said is right. You know, uh, simply you can, yeah, gamma is within a larger geographical area species diversity. Yeah, that will be, that will be broader definition. That's okay. Uh, yeah, it can be the geographical area, larger geographical area, that is a prerequisite. And beta diversity is something that you get, that you try to calculate when you're comparing two different ecosystems, how the diversity changes with different ecosystems. So let's just have a look at these plots. Let's say you have gone and sampled for three species in a forest, right? So each plot here can be called as alpha diversity, right? You're the smallest area that want to you have sampled, and the larger area, so basically the whole forest site, is gamma diversity. So you can have multiple, you know smaller plots that has different alpha values, and they together contribute to the gamma value. So overall diversity of the sites is gamma. So this is essentially gamma diversity, as you guys have suggested, is the species diversity of a larger geographical area, right? And smaller geographical area is alpha, the smaller area where you have sampled. And beta is is a value you derive when you are trying to see how the community changes between two different sites, right? Here two different quadrants where you have used for measuring plant species richness with plant species of of two different areas. So this value talks about how much there is a differentiation between site 1 and site 2. Okay, so can yeah, alpha is already written. What's the alpha diversity, which is main richness of the sites, right? 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. 8 by 2 is 4. What do you guys think is the gamma diversity of this area? Uh, did you get my question? So when we try to calculate alpha diversity, we calculate it as as you guys have said, of a smaller geographic area. It can be at the level of ecosystem also. So a smaller geographical area here, thus I said it's a quadrant. So whatever species that occur in that quadrant is alpha diversity of that site. So here alpha diversity is 4. So basically I'm calculating what's the mean alpha diversity. So average of both two is 4. What do you think is the gamma diversity? That is the whole overall diversity of the forest, where I had two plots. Okay. So basically, how the way you can calculate gamma diversity is basically calculate all the species that are present in that whole geographical area. So how different number of species. Uh, Here, see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So these all these 8 species are present within this whole forest, right? Two different, even they are present in two different quadrants. Together, they are present in this whole forest. So the gamma diversity value will be 8 here. In case if you find this green circle and green circle here also, then the overall gamma diversity will be 7, because the species although is present at both the sides, overall when you are looking in the forest how many species are present, so you will just have 7 species like that. So that is the gamma diversity. So you are looking at overall diversity of the site, while beta can be calculated as multiple ways, but the simplest way is dividing gamma diversity, basically overall diversity, by the average diversity of the sites. Alpha diversity, gamma diversity by alpha diversity, that is 8 by 4, that is 2. So the beta diversity of these two sites is 2, right? uh, if you are little confused about the how we derive the values, you can ask, feel free to ask. If you really don't get it, don't worry. Yeah, and I don't think they will be asked, but I'm just making sure that you understand that concept with the example, with an example. Okay. So if you have any questions regarding this thing, I can go over it again. If not, I can move ahead. Okay. So I will go ahead. So can someone, yeah, can you guys please go over this example and then let me know what's the species, which site is species rich and which site is even, has more even, which community one or community two that has higher species, and which site has more even community. Can you guys calculate and let me know? Rich community one. Okay. What about evenness? Which is one. Okay. Even community two. Okay. Evenness one. Okay. So now we have a contradiction. Nice. That's right. Really nice. So that means we are thinking. So let's just have a look at what is species richness again. So what is species richness? It's basically the number of species, different type of species present in a site. So you're not concerned about how many individuals of that species is present. We are basically concerned about how many species are there, how many different types. So let's just start counting the different types. One, okay, two, three, four, right? Are there any other types of species here? Right? Just four species. Okay, let's just go back to this example here. This community. So community species one, species two, species three, and species four. Right? Have I missed any of the species? Just let me know if I missed. So the species richness of both the sites, community one is four, community two is also four. So what do you think now? The which site is species rich? It seems like both are same, right? Four. Both communities are equally rich. And evenness. So evenness is, uh, you try to see how evenly these species are present. It's like in terms of their abundance. So here you are considered about how many times you encounter a specific species in the community, right? Instead of just the identity, you're concerned about how many times that species occur. Let's say this tree, how many times it occurs? One, two, three, four, right? One is four times, and two is one, two, three, four. Four, three is one, two, three, four, and similarly, four is also four, right? Four, 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 right? However, here if you look here, one, how many individuals are there? One, two, three, four, five, 8, 9, 10. 10 individuals, 2 is 1 individual, 3 is 2 individuals, 4 is 2 individuals, right? 4, 3. So, see, for it to be even, all of these species has to be present in equal number of individuals, right? So now, if you see, if now you, what do you think? Which community is more even? Whether it is community one or two? So we just computed the abundances of different species in both the communities, right? Now we have to use these values, these numbers, to say which community is even. So having a species, all the species in equal numbers, 4 4 4 4, or having a single species that is dominant and other rare species. So yes, community one is even because you have all of them in equal abundances or equal numbers, where community two is not even, it has a species that is entirely dominating other set of species. So you can say this community is dominated by the species one, while this is in an evenly distributed community. Okay, let's go ahead. Yeah, so basically 25%, 25%. They are same species richness, but they have different evenness. So, yeah, the other important thing that I wanted to point out is, since you're talking about alpha, beta, gamma diversities, uh, all this the concept of biodiversity hotspots has derived from from this thing. This is no endemic species. These species are found in the specific region. Where if you talk about these regions, the gamma diversity or the overall diversity of these regions. But if species 3 or 6 in number and uh, species 3 in which species 3 are 6 in number and species 4 are 50 in in community, which community is even? Okay. uh, Both the community are not even then. So because you have a dominance, if you calculate the proportions, hi Veera, yeah, that's a nice question. So if you calculate the proportions has to be more or less equal. Even if it's 25, 26, 27, 28, it's more or less, you can consider them as more or less equal. But if you have 50 one species, the proportion of the species is much more higher, right? So that community is also not even. So both the communities are dissimilar. So you can't really say which community is even for it. Yeah, you just say that this is this is not even community. This is species community dominated by this specific set of species. You generally don't say when you have unequal where there's one species dominating. You don't say even both the communities, they are dominated by two set of species. You just say this community is dominated by this species, is dominated by this species, that but you don't tend to say that too. Okay, hope that was clear. But generally that is how we calculate community events. So this example is for that concept. Yeah, but that's a really nice question. Hope I could answer your doubt, right? Yes. Okay, thanks for confirming. So yeah, so just talking about biodiversity hotspots. So if you remember the concept of biodiversity hotspots, these are these geographical regions, this larger geographical regions where the gamma diversity, which we just discussed about, is very high. And this the diversity is not only high, they are the most of the species that you see in the regions are endemic, and they are they are highly threatened by human activities. So these regions are hard to be prioritized for conservation because of these reasons. So that's how biodiversity hotspots were you know the concept came up. This is the first such map that came up with for that come up. There are a lot of additions recently that has happened here, right? So yeah, they just move ahead. Yeah. So if you observe a bird take a tick out of another bird's head and eat it, or it can be monkeys also. Yeah, please,
Sir,
please.
answer correct is C.
C. Allow grooming. Okay. So can you explain why it is allow grooming? Any idea? Can you try to explain? Why can't it be tick hunting? Okay, it's okay. If you can't explain, it's fine. Yeah, you're right. It's allow grooming. So allow is like yeah, allow is on another individual. Yeah, nice one. Thanks for writing it down. Auto is on the same. So here, since you're talking about birds, birds here. So it can be different species also. Allow means it can come with different also. Auto is self. Allow is another individual. It can be the other individual can be of the same species, can be of different species also. So grooming is basically you know you are trying to make yourself clean of lot of other things, So that's what the word grooming comes in. Tick hunting is just random word that is was made to just to confuse you people. So obviously there is no such thing for this behavior. And foraging is generally something that bird proactively does, or in this example, or an organism proactively does to to eat. So that thing is foraging. But so yeah, this foraging can't be here. So for instance, if you talk about uh, uh, interaction where there are these birds called oxpeckers that I have shown, I think, in one of the sessions, where in if you have seen this documentaries based in Africa, you might be seeing these birds with red colored bills or yellow colored bills sitting on animals and feeding, trying to pick ticks of the you know deer or giraffe ears or buffaloes. So there, because they predominantly eat those ticks for for as their food, or clean up those animals, that behavior by that bird on that animal can be considered as foraging. So or else it's mostly grooming, that sort of behavior. You're trying to help out another bird or another individual of. So which brings us to us about ecological interactions. Just revising the interactions. Mutualism, as you all know, is a positive. Both the individuals have positive effect on each other, and in most cases, the partners cannot live without each other. Each other's role. But in some cases, the partners can coexist without interacting also. Uh, so Rajesh, you're asking, allo grooming is between the same species. Uh, yeah, I feel it mostly happens between the same species. But for instance, I feel like the definition can go beyond the same species. Like for instance, if you have seen documentaries where where fishes or sharks that comes to coral reefs, there will be some tiny fishes that are called cleaner wrasse fish. So these go into go to feed off other those species, try to clean them up. So I think uh, that can be moved around that area. But yeah, I think I just feel so, but I'm not really bent on that. So it is yeah, that's what I feel. But if it's really of the same species, yeah, I might be wrong also. So yeah, that is commensalism. Yeah, there is a high possibility that I might be wrong with this. uh, Let me just give me a minute. Let me just have a look at it. uh, just give me a minute. Let me just have a look at it and confirm with you. So yeah, the word allogamy is generally used for same species, and I think you're right only. I think it's within the same species, because if it goes out of the species, then as you said, it can be you know commensalism or some other thing that might come. So yeah, thanks for correcting me up here. So yeah, I think allo grooming, as you said, it's between the same species, between the individuals of the same species. Yeah, hope that was clear. Okay. Uh, so just a minute. Yeah, I think for different species there can be called the word is interspecific, could be used as interspecific grooming. Uh, interspecific. Yeah, allo grooming is between the same species. For across species is interspecific. Yes. Yeah, I think there are few cases this has been observed in primates. This interspecific grooming. That's what I found out right now. So yeah, hope that helps you with that. That clarifies that doubt I created. I'm sorry for that. Okay. So yeah, if you're not convinced, you let me know. If so, I'll just go ahead. So yeah, mutualism. Can someone give some examples of this positive interaction, mutualism and commensalism? Coral and algae, their associated algae, that is mutualism or commensalism. Okay, so what do you guys think of this example? I'm just writing it in chat box in case if you're not able to understand the pronunciation. Okay. What do you say this interaction between a jewel wasp and a cockroach as? Where, what case it could it be? There could be mutualism, commensalism, neutralism, insulism, competition, antagonism. Oh, what do you think this is a net positive interaction or net negative interaction? What do you think these two uh, group of insects have in common or the interaction? Yes, rhizobium root nodule leguminous plant mutualism is okay. That's a nice example of mutualism, right? So what do you guys think of jewel wasp and cockroach? Uh, have you heard of this? I think I might have gone over this example of jewel wasp and cockroach. So any guesses? Anybody doing guesswork? It's okay to be wrong, but yeah, just try to answer whatever you think. There is no negative marking in this session. So don't worry about it. Let's try to learn. So if you remember the cycle, so wasps are major chunk of wasps are parasitic or predatory, right? So here, the example of jewel wasp and cockroach is a case of antagonism, wherein the jewel wasp gets benefit by laying its eggs in a cockroach so that the young one of the wasp can eat the cockroach and uh, it will hatch out the egg, it will eat the cockroach, pupate and completes its life cycle. So here the cockroach is dying of it. Basically, it has having getting negative interaction while the wasp is getting a positive interaction. So this is a case of antagonism. So just to be in case, so when most of the times when you have a wasp interacting, since most of these wasps are parasitic in nature, it mostly represents a case of one of the negative interaction, mostly mostly antagonism. But yeah, you have to properly understand that relation between those two organisms to say which way it goes to, right? And another one, let's just try to guess this one. Uh, so Balanus and Thamalus barnacles. There are two different species of barnacles that are found in intertidal areas. So, what do you think they interact? What do you think the type of interaction they have? Positive, negative, or neutral? If you can answer the exact interaction, that will be really nice. But you can go about whether it being positive, negative, also. This example is from a famous example of famous study that studied one of these interactions in species and how it how you see different species in different areas. So this represents a case of competition. Uh, so this is one of these famous example that has been studied in the course of UK, where yeah, where you see a nice distribution, null distribution of Balanus and Thamalus. Uh, I might be wrong with the spelling of the Thamalus. So because of intense competition, one of the species which is larger usually displaces the tiny one so that stays high up in the in the titles. So yeah, this is some of those examples. Amensalism, as you can know, one is negatively affected, the other has no effect. And neutralism, they're just interacting, they don't have any positive or negative effects. Well, yeah. Yeah, going on. Hamilton's rule can be stated as uh, hope you guys have heard of Hamilton's rule. uh, RB less than C, RB greater than C, RB equal to C, RB plus C is equal to 0, ABC. So here, let me just help you with what all these terms are. R is relatedness, uh, B is benefit, C is cost. So what do you think? B, RB is greater than C. So eventually that what okay. So you say that relatedness and benefit should outweigh the cost, right? Is it what you're trying to say? That's what Hamilton rules say. That's according to you, right? The relatedness and benefit component should have been much more greater than the cost component. Right? Yes, you guys are right. So for Hamilton, that's what the Hamilton rule says. You know, this rule is specifically used, when you try to talk about the evolution of sociality in organisms. So where, when you have lot of benefits being received, when you're be doing specific sort of behavior, and you are related to that individual, and it should be much more higher than the cost that you incurred because of that behavior. So this is how this example is. So how does this come up? So the actor of the specific behavior can get fitness advantage by direct reproduction. Let me just highlight here. Direct, which is called direct fitness, or he can get indirect fitness by, because he is related to the recipient in some way, right? Because he is related, the person is related, the person shares some amount of genes, let's say 0.5% of the genes with the recipient. So that's how relatedness comes. And then the benefits, and so the more you are related and the more benefits you get, should be outweigh the cost of that, you know nothing, the behavior that you're doing. So the overall fitness of an individual in this case could be calculated as the direct fitness that an individual has by direct reproduction, and this indirect fitness can also come together as inclusive fitness. So don't worry about this term. But yeah, this is how, when if you are related, since you share some of your genes, you get fitness. So thereby, when you are helping some other individual, the more you are related, the higher your fitness value is going to be. So if this side of the component is going to be greater, RB is going to be higher, the greater it is, the more likely that behavior is going to be avoided. And if the cost is really higher, no one is, uh, you know, benefits, this component benefits are relatively low. So obviously that behavior is not going to evolve. Going ahead, uh, an inventory of behaviors exhibited by an animal during a behavioral exercise is called uh, B. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, B. Yes, you guys are right. So the inventory of behaviors is called ethogram. So whenever you're studying a behavior of a specific species, you try to make an ethogram first of what all behaviors that animal does. Then you go and record those behaviors of the specific species or the group that you are focusing on. Okay, in this idealistic world, let's say in a parallel universe, if we all become vegetarians, we'll be able to support our large populations. This can be explained through a 10% rule, 1% rule, trophic cascade, biodiversity. So someone said a 10% rule. Uh, can yeah, can you say what this 10% rule is? Briefly, if you can. A lot of A's coming up. You're right. The answer is A. That is the 10% rule. So basically, this 10% rule is, it's not a hardened rule, but this is a general rule which says, sorry, yeah, as you go higher into the trophic levels, there is at least 10% loss of energy that happens. So let's say since we eat meat, we are not pure vegetarians. Let's say the here the chickens that we eat are here. Okay, and then we are here, humans, in the fourth trophic level, right? There are insects here. So chickens eat both insects. Let's say for the time being, the chickens eat just insects. So what we get is 0.1% of the overall energy that is produced by producers. However, if we start eating just directly plant related material, we are going to get a lot of energy, like 100% of it. So here we'll just get 1% of energy, what would have gotten when you eat it. So basically, this is happens because 10% rule suggests you lose a lot of energy as heat, and then when and then you also excrete a lot of things, and then only at around 10% of it is transferred across the trophic level. So that's why you're more likely to, you know we will be able to support our large populations if we become all become vegetarians. Which brings us to this important thing called trophic cascades. You know, uh, these are we're just talking about direct interactions, right? Ecological interaction. So, however, trophic cascades are such an important indirect interactions that control entire ecosystems. Uh, so, this generally occurs when predators limit the density and or behavior of their prey. The presence of a predator alters the behavior or reduce the density of the prey, and thereby enhancing the survival of the next trophic level. Since the predator alters the density of the prey, this will eventually have a positive effect on the next immediately next trophic level of the prey. So what does this representatively? So herbivore eats a producer plants. It has a negative effect on producers, right? Herbivore decreases producers, and the herbivore is eaten by a bird predator. This grasshopper eaten by bird. The bird has a negative effect on herbivores. So since this negative effect reduces the number of herbivores, indirectly presence of predators, here the birds, have a indirect positive effect on the producers. So if you remove these predators from this system, it's going to have cascading effects across the trophic levels. Like the herbivores numbers are going to increase and then producers are going to decline anything. And then simultaneously, if there is another trophic level, it will again increase. So you see, a lot of sudden changes. So these sudden changes are called trophic cascades. Okay. Yes. Going ahead, the logistic growth curve, when plotted, appears what shape? IJSO. Hope you all remembered the logistic growth curve, growth models. Okay, S shape. One answer. S. Yes, you guys are right. The logistic growth curve is S shaped. So let's have a look at. So what's the other growth curve that we have instead of logistic, and what shape does it have? Exponential and J shape. Yes, you're right. So exponential growth rate. Let's just talk about exponential growth rate again first. So exponential growth rate generally happens when there is no other parameters, there is no limitation on anything in terms of resource. The resource can be food, it can be space, or it can be anything. the populations grow exponentially. So it's called exponential growth rate. For instance, bacteria in a small culture medium can grow exponentially for shorter amount of time. So that sort of growth. However, that's not what we see in nature. We see, after a certain point, the population doesn't increase beyond a specific value because there is a limit to what the system can hold, what number of individuals it can support. So that value is called carrying capacity. So as the population starts increasing sharply, because it appears as it approaches carrying capacity, the population size, uh, you know, more or less reaches the carrying capacity, and the population growth rate decreases. Okay, so early starting at till this point, the growth rate accelerates, and it's highest when you are in the middle of this S-shaped curve. And after you pass on this S-shaped curve, the population growth rate again decreases. So yeah, so this is what we see in nature mostly. Okay, a climax caused by wildfires is an example of climatic climax, edaphic climax, climax, catastrophic climax. So basically, you're talking in terms of communities and how they change succession, how the communities change, and yeah, ABCD. What do you guys think? So a climax that is caused by wildfires. So they are termed as catastrophic climax. This climax. Uh, no, they are termed as catastrophic climax. Because they act as adaptive. Okay, so yeah, let's just talk about each of them first before I go on explaining what it. So climatic climax is basically climatic factors determine the climax community, right? Adaphic factors are something like soil. Okay, soil related factors, pH. These factors can be considered as are come under adaphic factors. Uh, and catastrophic events like storms, hurricanes, fires, that when they come like that, so these catastrophic events, if they determine the climax that you see, they are called catastrophic climax. And this climax, uh just yeah, what do you guys think this climax is? Just give me a minute. Yeah, what do you guys think this climax community is? Or so we just saw a climatic, soil related, catastrophic events, and disclaimer: communities are communities that are made formed because of human disturbance. Okay, so wildfires, where we specifically said it's wildfires, so it can't be any of these three. So human related activities, if it's a climax caused by grazing, then it will be this climax community. But since it is wildfires, it is a catastrophic climax community, or the succession that you see. So yeah, and fires also. Hope that was clear, right? Okay, cool. So fires also lead to what we call as secondary succession. Fires, you have a set of community that is present. Fire happens, and you have this succession again. But this succession has a lot of things that are already available for the species to grow. So this type of succession is secondary succession, and this is relatively shorter and faster than primary succession. Yeah. What do you guys think? The movement of individuals away from their place of birth or hatching or seed production into a new habitat or area to survive and reproduce is called. So individual is born in some area, and individuals move from this area to another area. Migration, dispersal. Okay, let's just read the question little bit again slowly and try to understand what it is asking. So you are looking for movement of individuals from where they are born to new habitat and or area to survive and reproduce. So you disperse to both to survive and reproduce. Uh, so what is so someone said it can't be migration because migration is an annual movement. Yes, it is an annual movement, and it is a regular movement between two places that happens seasonally, right? But here you are just moving from place where you are born to another area where you will survive and reproduce. You will do all the things just there only, but you are no longer going back to the place where you are born. Where in migration, you more or less go back to the area where you are born to reproduce again. So here you are moving to a new area to survive and reproduce. You know, so it has to be dispersal. So dispersal is you move from where you are born to a new place where you reproduce, carry on. Drifting is just going on. They don't have control over where they will go. So here the individuals moving to a new area look for similar sort of area, but with less competition or some other things. Drifting is just casually. So drifting is majorly something that you see oceans. A lot of animals drift or plants, or lot of, yeah, on different sort of substrates. Yes. Uh, Keystone species. Can someone give me examples of keystone species? Or in it, one keystone species in a marine environment, one keystone species in a terrestrial environment, in any ecosystem that you think of. Do you guys think like tiger, lion? Okay, in apparent competition, even one prey can be keystone species. Uh, hmm, it can be, but uh, what I feel here is it's just not a single species that is getting benefited. Here, the predator is the only individual. If it's apparent competition, uh, that gets benefited. So it's not just a single species that gets benefited here. It's a lot of other species are getting benefited because of the species. I doubt. Yeah. For instance, let's just have a look at ficus. Now, there are a lot of ficus that are there, and they are considered keystone species because you know some ficus fruit all across the year, and some ficus to during those time of year where there are there are no other species that are really food. So they are really important for the sustenance of lot of species in that area. So they are really key. So that's why they are called as keystone species. Uh, if tiger and lion, I'm not really sure whether they qualify or not. If you guys think they follow this definition, that they're really key for sustaining a lot of other species, then they can be called as keystone species. So it's just not disproportional effect, but they have this greater species that have disproportionately greater effect compared to their abundance. Even you have a single ficus, you see a lot of species that is providing to, right? Uh, that is one thing that's how you see. Without this keystone species, all other things go haywire. So if tiger or a lion is really controlling other remaining species, even they are present in low number, they can surely qualify for keystone species. But it depends on which landscape they are in, so the way they are affected. So yeah. So just to reiterate again, biomes. Now the biomes are majorly classified based on annual temperature and annual precipitation. Right, tropical forests are one of those places where you have highest highest precipitation and then higher temperatures also. While tundras have the least amount of precipitation and have the least amount of temperature. Similarly, cold deserts, hot deserts, and temperate forests. So yeah, then we had divided the world based on the species composition, the different set of species that are present, and we call this biogeographic regions. Right? This is a map, made by Wallace. He called zoo geographic regions, but now because it was made predominantly for using animals, now we know these geographic regions exist for other taxa also. They're just called as biogeographic regions. Uh, so the regions were Nearctic, Neotropical, Palearctic. Nearctic is North American, Neotropical is South American, Ethiopian is most of the Africa, and Palearctic Europe and Northern Africa. Oriental is India, Southeast Asia, and then Australian region. And then there is Oceania. Yeah, Australian. Now, but these are the older classification. But recently they have been broken down. A lot more have been added. No, the Southeast Asian is broken into Oriental is broken into Oriental and Sino-Japanese. Australian is broken into Australian and Oceanian. you know, and Afrotropical, specifically Madagascar, got its own biogeographical region because of the unique taxa that are present. So it has been updated recently. Okay, so yeah, these are the biogeographic regions of the world. But yeah, these are still popular. The older classification is still popular, but you will hear these updated versions of biogeographical regions also. Okay, going ahead, captive breeding is an example of in situ conservation, ex situ conservation, in situ preservation, ex situ preservation. What do you think is? Uh, okay. In situ conservation, A, in situ. Okay. B, ex situ conservation. Okay. B. Okay, I see two B's, one A. So okay, let's see what is in situ means. So that word in situ means at the site, right? Ex situ, off the site. In the site versus out the site. So if you conserve it within the site, it's called in situ. But captive breeding is you capture the birds or any animal that you are interested in, or any other plants also. You capture the species, take it to a different place, and breed them in a closed facility. So it is ex situ. It can't be in situ, right? You're doing it for conservation. Okay, so that's why captive breeding is ex situ conservation. While if you talk about protected areas, national park or wildlife sanctuary, they come under in situ conservation, right? You are conserving the animals within an area or within the site they are present. You're not taking them out. One such example is the Great Indian Bustard, for which you know captive breeding is taking place in a facility in Desert National Park in Rajasthan, right? And there are other lot of other animals also that have where captive breeding has been going on and has been successful in few cases, and all those captively bred individuals have been released back into those areas where they were present earlier and gone extinct. Okay. uh, yeah, just let me just touch over sustainability again. you know the sustainable or sustainable development is where you have both societal, economic, and environmental goals achieved together, right? uh, where you are not compensating any of these goals. So if you are able to achieve this part in developing, you call it as sustainable development. And it is really important considering the way things are going these days, where most cases you either look out for economic or societal gains or societal environmental gains, and getting an interaction and sustainability among all these things is really crucial. And 17 we have 17 sustainable developmental goals that have been set up for us, of which three are environmental related: climate action, life below water, life on land. There are few social related aspects, and there are society related, and there are some economic related aspects. So when you it is really essential for us to understand these goals and try to achieve them as a country. Yeah, going ahead, as we all know that we are not doing most of this development, and then they will leading to a lot of issues. One such issue is plastic issue, right? What do you think of this meso debris in the context of plastic debris has fragments of what size? Greater than 20 mm, 5 to 20 mm, less than 5 mm, less than 1 mm. So debris is waste. So plastic debris, plastic waste. Which category does meso debris fall in? 5 to 20 mm. Yes. You guys are right. You can just put it ABCD also. That's also fine. It's just they're just in order. So yeah, micro debris is like the values go into microns, the size. So it has to be less than 1 mm. Okay. So meso debris is 5 to 20 mm. So just going over how these plastics affect animals. At least the larger debris helps as sorry, affects animals, mostly marine animals. There are also effects on terrestrial animals also. Basically, the major problem is entanglement, which leads to death of lot of organisms, especially sea turtles or sharks, dolphins, even dugongs, manatees. All these animals they get entangled in these fishing gears that are left out, called ghost nets. They get entangled, they die, and even fishes that are caught in these, because no one is actively collecting them and releasing them. And meso and micro debris is something that really affects a species because they ingest them because they are so tiny, or yeah, they look like food, or they are just present in the environment which the species is present in, and the species uh, unknowingly ends up ingesting those size debris. So that can also harm the fish. They can also kill it. It's not only fish; it's also other organisms. So if you just look at, most of the studies have found lot of polyethylene in marine microplastic. So we are talking about microplastics, right? We just talked about meso, and we are here microplastics. So most of these microplastics are by from plastic bags, or bottle caps which are polypropylene, which are mostly single use plastics, are the biggest contributors to this microplastic debris. So going ahead, because of climate change, when Muzumala Tiger Reserve is suffering from frequent droughts. Okay, so what the management decided? They decided to build several artificial water holes for animals and fills them up regularly with tankers. In the context of climate change, such an action would be called. What do you call such type of action? Because there are a lot of droughts happening, the management tried to intervene and build up artificial water holes for animals. A, B, C, D. What do you think? Okay, mitigation. Okay, anybody else? What do you guys think? B, mitigation. Okay. Uh, okay. Let's say what is mitigation? Mitigation is basically you're trying to avoid something. Okay, that is going to happen. For instance, mitigation of human wildlife conflict is a term that you might have heard a lot in newspapers, at least. So mitigation is basically you're avoiding. Okay, you are avoiding the problem. Here you're trying to avoid the problem of climate change, uh, right? Or you're trying to avoid the effects of climate change. Uh, while deceleration is you're trying to deaccelerate the effects of climate change. Adaptation is you're trying to adapt to the effects of climate change. Here, you're not entirely trying to mitigate the effects. You're just trying to adapt to the effects of climate change. Yeah, one of the effects is droughts. You're not mitigating droughts. You're just trying to adapt to droughts by having artificial holes, water holes that can be used for helping wildlife. So this represents a case of climate change adaptation, not mitigation. Mitigation, if you have planted up trees, or have made sure that those streams that bring water for these water holes, so that you can mitigate droughts, that can be thought of as a example of mitigation, climate change mitigation. But here you are talking about adaptation. Similarly, let's say a deciduous forest in Madhya Pradesh was converted into a mine. Okay, after the mining was over, Pits were filled up with soil and a species of deciduous forests planted again. So Madhya Pradesh, just to be, yeah, so deciduous forest and deciduous forest. So what was there earlier, and you tried planted it. You planted the forest again. So this is an example of recovery, restoration, enhancement, and replacement. What do you think it is? Recovery, restoration, enhancement, or replacement? So this represents a case of restoration. So yes, you are right. Yeah, it's a case of restoration. Sorry, replacement is you are changing from what something was earlier. So you're replacing one thing with another. That is not is happening. You are having deciduous forests again, and you know you are restoring what it was earlier. So forest was it was you mined up you took out all the soil, dug up, and then again you fill it up and put up that again. So this is restoration. Which of these is correct? The maximum sustainable yield. So maximum sustainable yield is a concept that comes when you're trying to harvest individuals from the population. Either it could be animals, it could be plants, it could be. This is majorly with respect to fish. You can think it of as an example. So the maximum sustainable yield is near the beginning of sigmoidal curve, is near the midpoint of the sigmoidal curve, is at the end of the sigmoidal curve. None of these. Someone said it's B. Yeah, if you remember from the example that we just discussed a little earlier from another question, so the maximum sustainable yield is near the midpoint of the sigmoidal curve. So basically, here at the point, where you will have the highest growth rate. So let me just draw how does the growth rate looks like. Just uh, draw the population size on x-axis, okay, and growth rate on y-axis. So the growth rate peaks at this point, at k by 2 when the population size is exactly half. K is the carrying capacity. Okay, around when in a logistic growth scenario, the population's growth rate is highest, okay, at the midpoint. So this is what the midpoint looks like when you plot the population size versus population growth rate. So if you have highest, if you are harvesting the individuals around this point, since the population is growing way faster, you you can harvest a lot. If your population is here or here, your population growth rate is relatively less. So the number of individuals that you can harvest eventually keeps on going down. So that's why trying to understand this point is also important. Where when you're trying to harvest fishes or other animals, other game species, you need to have an understanding of what is the maximum growth rate, where is the population currently, and what's the number of individuals that can be harvested sustainably without crashing the population. And yes, the other concept, the last concept I guess that I will is, yeah, biomagnification and bioaccumulation, which I just thought we'll go through it again. Bioaccumulation is something that happens within a species, within an individual, over time. Okay, as the time goes on, whatever the chemical or whatever the toxin that you're looking at, it just keeps on accumulating within the body with time. So in older individuals, you see higher concentration of toxins. as you can see from the color shade, while younger individuals have relatively less shade. While biomagnification refers to increase in the concentration of the pollutants or toxins across trophic levels, right? This thing happens because you know the higher trophic level has to consume a lot of smaller trophic level individuals. So that's how the toxins or the pollutants get magnified across the trophic level. So yeah, that is the concept of bioaccumulation and biomagnification. Okay, yeah, that's all I have for today. And yeah, I'll be happy to take any doubts or any questions if you have. And yeah, since this is the last session, yeah, thank you for joining. Thank you for coming, attending these question sessions and asking very nice questions. And yeah, it has been, hope it has been nice learning experience. It has been a nice experience for me. Yeah. If yeah, if you have anything, I'll be free. I'll be happy to take any questions or try to explain you one or any of those concepts. And all the best for your exam. Those who all are writing for the exam, appearing for the exam. Yeah. Those who are not appearing for the exam, hope you had something to learn, some interesting things to learn about this field of wildlife. Yeah, wildlife ecology. Yeah, that's all I have for today. And yeah, thank you. If you have anything, I'll be taking any questions or else this end of today's session.
Is there any way to access these PPTs?
Yeah, there you can access these PPTs from the web page itself. So you can, if you go to the section left corner, I will just let me just show you where how you can access them.
Yes,
Just
sir.
give me a second. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah. Sure. So can you see the screen?
Um, yes, sir.
Yeah. So if you see the screen, yeah, sorry, it's a little blurred up. So on this left corner, if you scroll down, problem solving session 2023. Okay, problem
Yes,
solving session recording. Okay,
yes, sir.
once
Yes.
this once this loads up, uh, yeah. So once you click on this link, problem solving session recording, there will be spreadsheet that opens. So there were three TAs for this course. Okay, Geetika,
Yes, sir.
myself, and then Chitti Arvind. So you can access the presentations from these respective folders for whichever TA you are interested in, and simultaneously you can access the YouTube links for those recordings from those previous sessions. Okay,
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you for uh, coming to the sessions. Yeah, it has been nice time. Thank you and bye. All the best for your exams.